CEO of Niji Group. So I'm into agro solutions, I can call it. I work on circular economy when it comes to agribusiness. So, and I can say we work from end to end when it comes to agribusiness. So we're into equipment fabrication and processing. So we're into farm mechanization. That's Niji Farms. The equipment is Niji Lucas. Niji Farm is into farm mechanization. Then we have Niji Foods. That's processing of agro produce. Then we have NISA, Niji of Sustainable Agriculture. So we actually operate in almost 6 different areas when it comes to agribusiness. So we equally have Niji Novo, we deal with tractors. So we bring in SKD tractor, we assemble tractors. So that's a brief about what we've been able to do. And I've been working within the agribusiness for the past almost 30 years. So I have almost 30 years experience in the agribusiness from end to end. So that's a brief of what I can say about myself. I started 1991. My motivation then was I tried to dwell into an area whereby it's difficult for other people to do. My background was actually mechanical, but I find agribusiness as a lucrative job, quite challenging. That's another one. My father was a farmer, so and I used to follow him to the farm. And when I was going to the farm, it looked as if it's a difficult business, and I promised myself I would never go into farming, never. But when I travel 1 year and I look at the way farming is being done abroad, and I promised myself I want to have the biggest farm in Nigeria, Africa, but I don't know how it's going to work. But I just saw it as a vision and I quite pursued it. So I started with equipment designing and fabrication. So I started working on fast food equipment when we were still having only one Mr. Biggs. So I started doing all the processing equipment, oven displays and everything. Then I like working with metallurgy and material, whereby we look at some of the difficult parts that we cannot actually get in Nigeria, and I look at the available material that we can use to get it and make it work in different parts of the machine. So I started solving problems for most of the multinationals in the 90s, like UAC, Guinness, like Cadbury. I started making some of the parts difficult for them to do, at least in Nigeria, and bring it into the country. That's why I started. Then that one led me to fast food equipment. Then for fast food equipment, I moved into agro-processing equipment. So I like going to an area whereby it's difficult for other people to do. So that's what led me to for agro-processing equipment. Now gave me a challenge that, okay, you are producing equipment, why don't you use it yourself? So that one now led me to processing of agro-produce. So when I started processing, and I realized that processing is even not the main thing, you need to guarantee your raw material. So if you don't have your raw material sorted out before you start processing, you're in problem. So I started processing and I realized that enough raw material is a problem for you to be able to guarantee your processing products. So that's why I have to go into agro processing and farm mechanization. So that's the journey in a brief. So when I started, there's no template to follow. It's like operating from the shadow. So agribusiness then in 30 years was as if we don't really have anything on ground. So I have to do research on my own. I have to look for the little money to actually develop the research, spend the money on R&D. Then you have to process and fabricate with your own money and make it at least sustainable. That was the first challenge. Then you don't have enough staff, I have to retrain and train some of the people working with me on the quality and the way forward. That's on the fabrication. Then when it comes to food, the food is another problem because the food coupled with farming. We don't have farmers, and some of the farmers we have now, they are old and they don't actually practice sustainable farming. So I have to go. I started going to school of thought, so that this thing is supposed to be done this way. So I have to start recruiting people, train them on the way the thing is supposed to be done. So that's on fabrication. There was no enough tractors. Some of the tractors we got then was a clone tractor, or we had to buy a refurbished tractor to set up the farm. So it was difficult. That's what led me into tractor. And I traveled to Germany, India, China to look for the partner, like a partner with the area of tractor. So I got like 3 partners. So I was able to partner with them, bring them the equipment, adapt it to our own environment, and tell them what needed to be added in the area of tractor. So in the area of processing, most of the food we are processing now was based on cassava. Then we have fufu that smell. I have to come out with odorless fufu that doesn't smell. It's one of our moving products now. So if you eat our fufu now, as if you are eating pounded yam. So I came out with that. Then there was nothing like a mechanical fryer for garri. So I designed the fryer. I started using it on my farm. So a lot of people now realize that we can use a mechanical way of frying garri. So I started it that way. I pioneered the mechanical fryer too. So then there was no pillar. I traveled to Germany to liaise with the company to develop a cassava peeling machine. So I spent my money, spent my time on bringing the first peeling machine to the country. So that's why we have a cassava peeling, garri fryer. Then when it comes to the issue of drying, because of post-harvest losses, so we don't have any good form of drying. So I took it upon my chest to develop a cabinet dryer. Then later when the issue of flash dryer came in, so we collaborate with IITA to develop the flash dryer. So I actually championed the research on the flash dryer to be able to dry our farm produce. Drying of cassava flour, starch, and fufu. So those are the areas where I've been able to operate. So it was not easy. The journey was not easy. So I have to take a lead role in some of the processing equipment, and I have to spend my own personal money. As I'm telling you now, all the thing I've developed is being copied by other people. I did not access any grants, no support from even the state government, the local government, the federal government, no support. So I use my phone to develop what other people are now using, or what even Nigeria, other Africans are using. It came out from my sweat on how to patent and design it to make it work. Then another thing we do on business is that we don't do business the way other people are doing it. We develop a model, we expose it to other people who want to invest in the same system. We train them on the model we are using and the system we are using. We equally fabricate equipment for them, and then set up their own farm and train them on how to manage their own farm and process. So we are calling a lot of people that we can do the business together, and we can both open the business together, because the business is still new. We still have a lot of things undone. So the little one we are able to develop, we are calling other people to join us. We don't do business like other people that will not allow people to either visit their farm or visit their factory. So a lot of people can testify to that any development we do, any new innovation we do, any new invention we make, we call people to come and look at the milestone we have actually made. We don't celebrate our success, we leave our success for other people to celebrate, so that we can think of something better in the future. So that's how we have been operating, and that's the journey so far. We started with 4,000 acres of cassava planted. So but we are moving from 4,000 to almost 10,000, and we've gotten our another land that we're moving to almost 10,000 now. So, but majorly we started with almost 4,000 acres of cassava farm. That's what the size of our farm for now. So we're moving from 4,000 to 10,000 because our capacity for our starch line will take 50 tons of tuber a day. Then the flour line will take 50 tons. Then we have ICPU where we process fufu, gari, and other things will take 20 tons. So capacity, we have capacity almost 120 tons inputs per day on our processing sites for now. So that's what we do now. We are open to a lot of people competing with us, and that's our strength. Because when we compete in a business, we see reason to reduce the cost will go down, and we're able to develop more on the product. So majorly, most of the marketing strategy we've been using now is to brand our product as a souvenir to distribute for people who want to do ceremony, and people taste our product, they say okay, it's okay. Another thing is that we're able to produce at a competitive price. So because when I listen to governments trying to ban different products coming to Nigeria, that's not the best way that our government is supposed to. That's not the best way it's supposed to approach the issue. The issue is produce and provide an enabling environment for people to be able to open to the competition. So that's what we need to do. In Nigeria, our overhead is low. We have a lot of people who are unemployed youth. So what the government needs to do is to provide an enabling environment. Look at how we can produce at a competitive price, reduce the overhead on what we produce. If they are bringing rice from Thailand actually use soil to plant, and they use labor and everything to plant, and they still need to add the cost of CIF to come to Nigeria. It still comes cheaper than what we are producing. That means we are not doing something right. So what the government is supposed to have done is to support the system, to say okay, we are supporting the system on how to do it right, so that any product bringing to the Nigeria, our own will be cheaper. And when you are talking about the quality, must be actually be better off than what they are bringing. So what the government is supposed to do is to copy the idea of doing business abroad, come and domesticate it here, and that's it. And that's what we have been able to do in the area of processing equipment and some fabrications we've been doing. We do the reverse engineering of some of the equipment. There's no new technology, but we reserve the engineering, we adapt it to our own climate and to the kind of people we make it foolproof, so that people will be able to use it. So what I'm actually saying in a nutshell is governments don't supposed to be buying anything. The more they buy things, the more we are devaluing ourselves, and that's why you see a lot of inflation in the system, because some certain group of people will be monopolizing the system. So that's why we are not competitive in the international market. So take for instance cassava now. Why can't we produce cassava cheaper than what any other country can produce? And government is supposed to support us in bringing a lot of equipment for processing. Government said they have ease of doing business in Nigeria. To me, I will tell the government that it's not true. I do export a lot of processing equipment fabricated in Nigeria. I know what I suffered. There was a particular year that my equipment going outside the country stay almost 2 months at the port. Going to Togo, 2 months. The other one going to Liberia stay almost 2 months. The other one going to Burundi stay almost 1 month at the port. That's what is bringing the country FX. And when the government say open export process account, after you open it, you cannot repatriate even the money they're supposed to give you. That's number one for some of us who are exporting products. Another thing, some of us who are actually bringing some other, we call it feeder parts into some of the equipment we do. So like even the tractor that will bring some SKD or some equipment they don't do in Nigeria. When you come to the port, the custom will delay your product for like almost even the last tractor I brought in was almost 2 months for no reason. I opened all the paper, did everything. So there's no way we'll be able to compete with other international counterparts, because the tractor they sell in abroad for almost $10,000. By the time you clear and everything in Nigeria, you pay another close to almost $10,000 for the clearing and some other duties and some demurrages and everything accrue on it. So that means equivalent to the tractor they are buying for $10,000, we actually devalue our own currency to be selling for $20,000 in Nigeria. And that's part of the problem we're having in Nigeria and that the government is supposed to look into. Because when the government are clamoring about agriculture, they are not doing the right thing they are supposed to be doing. They are not. They don't actually scratch the wound where they're supposed to. So they are just covering it. They are not treating the wound. So for us to be competitive, where it's possible, if government provide an enabling environment, and if the ease of doing business is real. So that's what I need to say on that. None of the government policy have actually helped my business. None of them, because I never gotten any grant. I never gotten any support from them. All I get is I'm telling you now. I have over almost 15 generators I'm using. 500 kVA, 350 kVA, 250 kVA, 150 kVA, 40 kVA, 100 kVA. I have almost 15 I'm using on the farm, and I paid a lot of money to extend electricity to my site, close to almost 50 million. I never see the electricity. I bought a transformer, I did everything. So for the past 10 years, I've been running on generator, diesel to sustain the business. So how come say I'm benefiting from government? And I travel from Imeko. I have a site at Imeko to Abeokuta one day. I met almost 48 checkpoints on the road between Imeko and Abeokuta, less than 100 kilometers distance. 48 checkpoints, and that's where the farm produce are coming from. And when we are transporting a cassava root from Imeko, either to my farm here or to Thai farm or the same Ogun State, a trailer, just 20 tons or 25 tons to take almost 300,000 naira. So that means the profit has actually gone to the people who are doing logistics, only company. So how is the government coming in and the government supporting the business? So government are not really doing. So most of the access roads are bad to the farm. Cassava farming business is one of the most lucrative business. You know why? Because you may decide not to irrigate. You don't need it because we depend on rainfall system. Then you may decide not to use fertilizer. You still get your yield up to 20-25, at times 30 tons per hectare. So then you need little or no supervision for cassava apart from the experiment that destroy the farm. So when you are planting stems, you are getting roots and you are getting stems in returns again. It's one of the most lucrative business. But what we are telling people is that before you plant cassava, you must actually sign with an off-taker, someone to buy the cassava from you. So don't plant, even if it's not only cassava, don't plant if you don't have the market. Don't plant if you don't have the market. So what would that do is that to help, we have a training school here which is supporting anybody that wants to go into farming on a different level. So they were exposed to different area of agribusiness and be able to pick one out of it. So recently we were able to buy a cassava planter, a cassava ridger, a cassava harvester. Just brought it into the country. That's different from the other harvester and planter they were using. So we just brought that one this year for people to see. And normally what we do in our school is that we don't train people as a farmer, we train people as a service provider. So pick a particular service along the value chain and render service. Don't have a limitation that you want to be a farmer. A farmer is, if a farming program is wide. So to be a farmer, you need to involve in a lot of different things. You have land clearing, you have land preparation, you have planting, you have weed management, you have harvesting, you have different area of farming. And when you are talking of farming, you have a cassava farmer, you have maize farmer, you have so all of them require different approach to it. So that's what we've been able to tell people, that cassava is one of the things that you can do and make money. And the minimum acreage you can encourage you to work in as a farmer, to start from almost 10 hectares of land That's the minimum area that you can walk into have it. But you need to have a market before we grow it. And that's why we're introducing another system. We have a sustainable city, that's where we are. So where we're putting all the energy group activities in one place. So we develop another place which is 10,000 acres of land, which is agri-city. So that's when we are bringing a lot of youth, a lot of partners in to say ease of doing business. It's going to run on shared services. Someone provide the water, the electricity, the housing, the equipment leasing, then the harvesting. Some people specialize on processing, some people on warehousing, different value chain. So based on the experience of over 30 years, is what we're using to now bring out how business is supposed to be done in Africa. So that's why we're developing the agri-city. So the concept is after we develop, the job is on, work is ongoing on it. So it's a model that can be replicated anywhere in the world. So or in Africa or in Nigeria, that you have almost between 10,000 hectares or 10,000 acres. So different people living within is another new Nigerian community that's going to solve a lot of problems in Nigeria. So that's what we're doing now. We are moving into maize. Just bringing it on combined harvester that can harvest up to 15 to 20 hectares a day. So we brought in planter. We've done the first phase of planting this year. We're harvesting. Maybe you'll be able to see it when we go to the big farm. So we're doing a lot of things, training people on how to process, training people on how to do farming, proper sustainable farming, and value addition on different areas of farming. What we've been able to do is we've been able to actually recruit our own security on the farm. That's why like a vigilante. So we pay them, we ask them to, like I'm talking AG farms, and we have almost over 30 security men on the farm. That's an additional cost to us. So on the farm, so that they have to be on the farm day and night to patrol the farm, because we are surrounded with all the Fulanis and the herders that they just enter into the farm and they eat and they just eat your product up. Even they put some of our cassava in the night and give it to their cows, so or cattle. So we've been facing a lot of problems, but we don't want to have any interface with them. So we try to make sure that we put security on the farm to be able to guide our farm for us. But that's an additional cost to our own investment. But that's the least one we're able to do there. Well, anytime they enter our farm, we're able to locate them and live with them and let them see the reason why they should not be able to come into our farm. But we've been doing that one for more than 10 years. But at times they wound our boys, they fight with our boys, they do everything, but we find a way of resolving it. And that's a critical problem if truly government really wants people to go back to the farm. So if the issue of insecurity is also resolved, I don't think we'll be able to do much. And most of the investments the government are putting will not be able to see the light of the day, because people are afraid of coming to the farm. People are afraid of even going to their own farm. Even when they don't even kidnap them, the little acreage of farm they've been able to do when they are not there, these people will just enter the farm, just eat almost everything, and you cannot trace them. So it's a big problem, but the little one we'll be able to do is to recruit security on the farm to get their farm for us. Oyo State is actually trying to work along with us. So they are trying to invest more in agriculture. But what Oyo State can do is to look for a way of involving in land clearing. Land clearing is major. So if they can do the land clearing for people, so they should then help us set up some security system on the farm. Maybe Amoteco and some other things to make sure the entire farm is okay. And if I work on the agri-city or the farm estate as the Oyo State is doing. So if Oyo State can work more on the farm estate they are doing, and we are working on agri-city, it's almost similar concept, but their own is that it's shared services. It's not being driven by the government, it's our own initiatives. So if they can do that one and a lot of shared services is engaged, I think it's going to reduce a lot of cost on the issue of that. And they need to invest in equipment, tractors, because we don't really have tractors on the farmers don't have access to tractors, and the little tractors they have are not enough. So Oyo State can just help the farmer to do land clearing. They can spread the cost over almost 5 years on what they've been able to do. I think they recover the money back. But issue of land clearing is key if truly you want to support the cassava farming in Nigeria and in Oyo State. So that's apart from that, Oyo State is actually doing well to make sure that they bring together all the private investors in agriculture, and they are thinking of how we can work together to tell them what needed to be done and the area we want them to support.